All right, shalom, shalom. Welcome back to the journey where we come across individuals who keep the righteous laws, statutes, and commandments of the Most High and have powerful testimonies. And today I am with a man in the nation of Israel that don't need too many introductions. A brother that has music, top quality music. He's been traveling across the country and abroad, doing all kind of things for the Most High, sharing his name. One of the most humble individuals that you're going to meet in this walk, because sometimes when individuals get a little bit of notoriety, they start to put their head up into the sky. You can't say nothing to them, you can't approach him. Well, he's the total opposite. All right, so I'm not going to say too much more about him. I'm going to go ahead and let him introduce himself to those brothers and sisters that may not know who he is.
Well, my name is Lorvins. Pretty much, Son of Shemites is the, you could say, the truth brand in which I operate under. And then you have L&L Tracks, which is pretty much the production side for Son of Shemites. So basically, that's me in a nutshell. Hailing, pretty much, I was born in the Bahamas, and my parents are Haitian, so I've had the opportunity to travel and pretty much have understanding of different culture, and then come here at a young age. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell right there.
Okay, so we know it's not that simple. We're not going to let him get off the hook that quick. We're going to work back to the old Lorvins, because it's when individuals see him on the stages, doing some of his songs like, Praise Yah and Oh My Yah and all the different songs that even I heard him share and sing today. Individuals are caught onto those songs, but they do not know the struggle and the things that led him up to that point. So that's what I want to go to, is starting back to your younger years, before you start making all the hit singles and the songs and featuring on all these different other individuals' albums and mixtapes. What was your upbringing like coming up?
Well, like many, I had a Christian upbringing. So my dad, he was a deacon. He's been married for a while, for pretty much a long time. But a lot of people don't know that my biological mother, my dad is not married to her. So
Okay.
I'm the first son of my dad.
Okay.
But my mother, I was turned to my dad with his wife when I was 9 months. And so my mother, she, from what I understand the story, is that she was always sick. So she went back to Haiti. And so, but my stepmother has taken care of me since I was 9 months. So essentially, I've had a mother the whole time, even though I didn't know my natural biological mother. And as a child, I grew up, in the Christian, I was Catholic at first.
Okay.
But that's very super young age. And then, we went to Haiti, around like 6 years old or so. And then went back to the Bahamas, and then we moved here, so to speak, for better opportunity, as the saying goes. And so now I'm here. So, but then when we got here in America, it was more Christian. I sung in the church. Whatever it is. I did it in church. Bible study, going out missionaries to other people's houses and praying for the sick and things of that nature. So did it all, man. So that was
so you were singing in the choir?
Yes.
And at what age was this transpiring?
Man, I was in the choir more like my teen years, 12, 13. All throughout high school, and then I ended up going to college. So.
Okay, so going back and forth though from Haiti, a place that is known for voodoo, witchcraft, things of that nature. Were you ever privy? Did you ever see any of that? Eyewitnesses from a young age?
Man, you asked that question. Honestly, when I went to Haiti, I was about 6, 7, and then my dad thought it was a good idea for me to go see my natural mother.
Okay.
So I don't think anybody. This is exclusive right here for Israel to see. But basically, we went. Me and my brother. I have another brother named Harry, and so we were both born by our biological mother. And so we went to see her, and that was my first time seeing her at a young age, just kind of from memory and knowing, okay, this is my mother. And so while we was there, at nighttime, something was going on. Something woke me up. And was like, when I got out, you know, I saw like fire, like this bonfire. And then I'm just going from what I can recall at the time. And then people had like, you know, little sword or whatever, sticks or something like that. They just dancing around this fire. And look, don't hold me to this, but I could have sworn I saw somebody levitate.
Man.
You see what I'm saying? And I think it kind of stuck with me for a while. Immediately, my spirit was not in agreement with it. I was crying I was crying to the point where I never stopped crying because I was asking for them to take me back to my dad's house. Now, you know where we from in Haiti, it's a separate island off the main island. Mm-hmm. No running water, no electricity, no none of that. I'm talking about at night, it's African dark. You see what I'm saying? It's dark. So if you know the story, like a lot of people when in Africa, rural area, night is pitch black. So in Haiti, where I was, nighttime is pitch black if the moon ain't out. And so 2, 3 in the morning, I'm still crying. Take me to my dad's house. And then they did. My brother ended up staying. And when I got to my dad's house, I just stopped crying. Because whatever was going on, I can't co-sign. I guess my spirit just didn't agree with it. But at the same time, I can't say what it was not or was doing. I can just remember from my knowledge and from my recollection that this is not cool. You know what I'm saying? So,
but even at that age, you had something inside of you, some type of sensitive ruach that allowed you to know that wasn't right.
Man, look, it nearly traumatized me to the point I was like, wait, hold up. I know somebody just levitated. You know what I'm saying? And it was like one of those things where, you know, I heard stories, you know what I'm saying, on my mother's side, you know, grandma and all that. But from what I understand, my grandma from my mother's side, she was like this witch doctor. But not so much like in a sense, that's what they were saying, but then I later learned she wasn't a witch doctor. What she was doing, she would organize functions for witch doctors.
Right.
So if they needed like some things done, and then she would basically prepare, make sure everything is right for that purpose.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So you can say in a sense that from my mother's side, they was in tune with the spiritual side. Unfortunately, they was just doing it for the wrong reasons, from what it looks like.
So after that, you come back to the States.
Well, after that, you know, I went to my dad's house.
Okay.
So I was in Haiti for like 2-3 years.
Okay.
And I never went back to my mother's house. Never. And then even from when she would come and visit, I would stay away from her. But that was just something that I went through, you know. Brother Harry, he was cool with her, but I was like, mm-mm. And then we ended up going back to the Bahamas, and I hadn't spoken to her in a long time, bro. I'm talking about decades. Until, you know, all the stuff started happening with Haiti. And I was like, man, I gotta face this thing. I gotta face her. I gotta talk to her, you know, see what's going on. And ever since then, I'm about to finish building her house.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you have to go back. You can't tell other people, hey, you know, go back to your past, but then you don't do it. You know what I'm saying? So I needed that for me. I'm not saying that it affected me in a way where it affected my spiritual walk, but I felt like I needed that for me, though. You see what I'm saying? To not have that in my heart as whether, to not even be thinking that something is wrong with her or not wrong with her, but I needed to have better understanding. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, so now where does that take you now, going through these teenage years now? Are you singing in the choir, you're doing the different functionalities in the church, but do you have a real relationship at this moment?
With her, no.
I'm talking about with the Father, with the Most High.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I thought I did, you know, coming back into the truth, but like, as a Christian, you think you do. You see what I'm saying? Because you doing all these good works, you singing in the church, you feeding the poor, you going to people's house every Monday, and because they sick, and we praying over them. Every Friday night, we praying for Israel, the land over there. Every Wednesday, Bible study. Saturday, prayer meeting. Sunday, I'm at church 3 times. You know what I'm saying? Bible study, regular church, and then a youth group, and then Sunday night. So I'm like a mess. I ain't got no time but school and church. So it's like, who can say I wasn't, you know what I'm saying, worshiping God? At least that's what I thought, you know what I'm saying?
Well, the reason why I asked that because there are certain moments that define people's walk, and when they look back on it, they can say, when I was 12 years old, this happened. When I was 14, this happened, and I've come across individuals throughout time where they was able to pinpoint that moment. So you didn't have one of those moments at a young.
Well, I mean, I had many moments, but it's too many to even count because how busy I was in church. You see what I'm saying? Obviously I got so-called saved when I was like 13.
Okay.
Got baptized, and but I've always loved giving praise to the Most High, singing to Him, and things of that nature. So, if anything, my best moments was just remembering all the works that we used to do because I used to love visiting people's house.
Right.
And then we would pray and sing for them and try to heal them. That was like the thing.
Right.
And but some of my best moments also was as a youth, I was directing the youth choir. I would teach them songs and things of that nature when I was like 17, 16, 18.
So would you say that was kind of a point in your life where you were starting to really develop this love for music, or did you already have it?
I already had it then. Like, I've been singing since I was 3.
Okay.
So, I've always been pushed, hey, sing, boy, sing. You know what I'm saying? But when I got into high school, that's when I really started to hone it, because then I was part of this group called Harmony Plus, and I was part of the performing arts program. And so that's when I started getting more the technical aspect of singing, because I always loved singing, but I never thought anything about singing. I never really, I know it sounds weird, but I never really thought anything special about singing, because I've been singing since I was 3.
Right.
So it's like, other people saw that it was special, but to me it wasn't special. It was just something that was part of me. You see what I'm saying? That's like somebody say, oh wow, you got an arm. Well, yeah, everybody got an arm. But to me, I looked at it as singing. Oh yeah, I've always been singing, so there's nothing special about it. You see what I'm saying? And I never really looked at it back then, okay, yeah, God gave me this great gift, or not everybody can do it. I never looked at it that way.
Right.
It's just breathing to me,
Okay, so now you evolved from, being this teenager, being in church, singing in the choir, doing all these different things in the church, being busy, whether you had a relationship or not. What about your young adult life now?
My young adult life, now you talking about from high school, going into college. So I got a full scholarship going to Bethune-Cookman University, or Bethune-Cookman College back then.
Okay.
I had a full scholarship going there, part of the concert chorale. So now I'm using this gift that the Most High gave me, and I'm trying to major in music or minor in music, and now I'm going and traveling internationally now and singing at the White House, Capitol, President Clinton, and all these places, singing on TV, so now it's like, okay, I'm just singing. I'm just doing this because it's part of my job in school, you know what I'm saying? So now, I wouldn't say I even loved it anymore as much. Because, yeah, we were singing Negro spiritual and opera and classical music and all these different things. I didn't enjoy it as much anymore. Because it was like, oh, I sing, and then we've been exploited, whatever, you know what I'm saying? So then I try to shy away from even being part of the spotlight, because honestly, even when I did audition for the concert chorale, I held back. I didn't want her to know that I can sing. Just enough to be background singer.
Right.
And I think that's when it began, where I was like, you know what, I don't want to be in a forward front at all.
Okay.
Let me just help out people. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's amazing, because all the time, all the years I've known you now, I never known you were singing at the White House and traveling around internationally singing. I kind of thought that this was, started to be birthed 5, 6 years ago. But I was able to speak with you one time, and which we're going to get to. You was talking about how you was on the brink of making a big deal. And the Most High caused some things to shift.
Yeah.
We're gonna get to that in a second.
Yeah.
So now you stay in the background now. So where are you at now in your life? Are you married at this time, or are you still just kind of doing your thing?
Oh, I'm definitely married. My wife is Lakeisha. If you're talking about this current time, yeah, absolutely. I've been married. Me and her been together since I was 23.
Okay.
44.
Okay.
So 21 years, but we've been married about 9 years or so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so now where did that come in when you start to collaborate with all these different artists? Was that when you started being in the background and not trying to?
Yeah, well, I ended up transferring to the University of South Florida in Tampa, so I changed my major to psychology. And so, but then I was like dabbling in the music industry a little bit, starting to make beats and meeting different people and networking and stuff like that. And so now I'm putting college on the background a little bit, so now I'm getting more notoriety as far as like a producer in Tampa, Florida. I ended up opening my own studio and music engineering because I was studying music in college. So I figured, just bring it all together, you know what I mean? And so that's when I started doing it at the age of like 20, 21.
Now this time are you doing secular music?
Oh.
You doing gospel music, or you just doing everything that you can?
I'm doing both. You know what I'm saying? Because in a Christian church, you can do both. They say you got grace. You know what I mean? So I go to church, and then when I'm not at church, then I'm doing music in the studio, stuff like that, and secular music, doing both. So I used to hate hip hop. I used to listen to something called easy listening. You know what I'm saying? A lot of classical music and things. That's kind of what was my niche. You see what I'm saying? And then I started listening to R&B. And hip hop was the last thing I started listening to, and so I was immense in the secular music.
Immense. So now you're working with all these secular artists. I've been in the studio quite a few times. I know what goes on in the studio. A lot of smoking, a lot of drinking, different things of that nature. So you had these individuals where you was about to sign them onto your label at one time, correct?
Well, not signing them to my label. I've always had artists where I dealt with them. Like I would have my own artists. I was a music engineer. Even though I sang, I didn't want to sing. I was singing little hooks on their music and stuff like that. But I would record them, and then we'll try to push their music and try to get a deal, basically. You see what I'm saying? So there was about 3 artists I did that with.
Yeah, now, but you still had that mindset of I'm gonna kind of stay in the background.
Right.
I don't want to be out front.
That's right. So everything I was doing was always background stuff. Now I'm like, okay, I can get an artist. I can make the beats, I can record them, and then we can just network, go to the clubs and meet different radio personalities and get these artists famous and get them deals, and I can get paid that way, and I ain't never have to go to the forefront. You know what I'm saying?
So what caused that to change for you to stop working with these artists? We know that a drastic change of events started to happen for you that pushed you away from that altogether. So
well, the truth. I wasn't, even when I got in the truth, I wanted to do background work still.
With secular artists?
Well, no. With secular artists, I never was an artist when I wasn't in the truth.
Okay, because I know that one situation we had conversed about, you were saying that something happened in the studio that night. Some things.
No. Well, you're talking about, like, as far as I had an artist that, he did great music. He was from Miami. His name was X-Con, go figure. And then, we was about to sign a deal. You see what I'm saying? And it was like a week before we signed the deal. And I was telling him, hey, bro, do not go party prematurely. I know your boys from Miami coming down, bro, do not. You know what I'm saying? I said, bro, this is special. It's almost $900,000. Half of that is mine. You know what I'm saying? So he ended up going to the club anyway. And he got into an altercation and he stabbed somebody. And the person died. And the person he stabbed was another artist that I was working with.
I was 2 artists in one night.
So he died, and then this artist went to jail for like 30 years.
Man. So where you at now? You done lost your 2 main artists?
Well, that time I was like, man, I can't catch a break. So went back to the drawing board. Then ended up getting another artist. His name was Jay Streets. You look him up. You might see some things on him. And then we ended up meeting this record exec with Divine Records, who was basically partner with Universal Record. His name was Gary.
Okay.
Gary Esquire. You want to look at him, he's a fraud. But the thing about it is, he was like, we was something called Fresh to Death Records. So I had a group of guys, we was trying to do this thing. So Jay Streets was one of those guys where I just did all his beats, recorded him, through all these different things. And then Gary was like, you know what? Well, I had one of the radio guys came to me and said, you know what? Man, if y'all do this song called Country Boy, just take this country music and then mirror it with hip hop, And so it was a good idea, and then we ended up sampling it. And then we released the song, they was playing on the radio, and then the radio people came. It was like, you know what, we like to partner up with you and Gary Jenkins. So we ended up getting a single deal for him. It was like maybe 20-something thousand, but it was more like a test run. Back then they were doing these single deals.
Right.
And of course, you know, with these artists and my partner, they ain't never seen money, I guess. And they end up getting a portion out of that money when really it was just to promote the music. And I was like, man, we need to put this in the music to promote it because they really want to see what we can do. They didn't want to hear. I said, well, in that case, give them our portion. And so, and the music never went anywhere. So it was a single deal, but it never went anywhere because everybody just wanted the money, being greedy. And that just ended, just like that. But when I was younger, I did a couple tracks for Turbulence, which is an international recording artist. He's reggae. And I didn't know to use the record. You know, I'm at work at Bank of America, and then 8 years, somebody Googled me and said, hey man, so you did a track for Turbulence. I'm like, what are you talking about? I go and Google, I'm like, wait a minute. What? I did 3 tracks on this man's album. It is backwater, went platinum outside of the state, out of the US, they didn't even release it here. So I got a lawyer and we looked into it and they did the calculations. Approximately they owed me $1.2 million.
Man.
But I didn't have any jurisdiction over the music. I didn't even know who to talk to anything about that. So that I lost out on that. It made me so sick. I stopped doing music for 6 months. And so I was like, you know what? Now being in the truth, you're like, man, the Most High just was cutting all these things off from me, you know, knowing that if I had, you know, got into these things, who knows where I would have been, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, you're probably somewhere far left right now.
Far left.
You know, doing the things that we see on YouTube, right?
Right.
So now, what's the distance between the time that you stopped recording music to the time that you know, accepted your identity and started to, you know, make these songs? Because the very first time I heard a song with you on was you was on Spiritual Combat.
Right.
And that was, what, about 4 or 5 years ago?
To be honest, 3 years.
3 years ago.
Yeah.
Okay, it seemed like 4 or 5 years.
It seemed like
so many things have transpired since then.
Right. So, man, when I got in the truth, I was like, man, I'm just gonna do the same thing like I always do. I'm gonna find somebody, you know what I'm saying, and I'm gonna help them because I was always about helping people, you know, get better and, you know, doing this thing. I'm like, ain't no way I'm gonna be an artist. And so when I started looking for music, it's like the Most High hit all the music. I just saw a bunch of raps with people cursing and all that. I'm like, dang. And so I went looking for artists. I just couldn't find any, you know what I'm saying? And then I started to hear that voice, like, okay, I need you to get busy. I need you to do what you, man, I was running. I ain't trying to do that. I said, I wasn't an artist in the world. I ain't finna be no artist in the truth. But the Most High was preparing me, although he had already prepared me all these years with the music. But when I got in the truth, I was like, well, if I'm gonna do this for you, then allow me some time to be able to learn about you, know who you are as this God that I just found. You know, it certainly wasn't the same God when I was a Christian. And so I started learning, man. And then I was like, man, this truth is crazy.
Now, before you get into that, what caused you to look at life, spirituality from a different vantage point?
Well, I mean, my marriage was in shambles. I ain't gonna lie. It was, you know, being in the music, you know what I'm saying? You doing all kind of crazy stuff. Wife getting mad. Well, but it was fiance then. Upset and, man, just being gone all the time. Now it's like you dabbling in strip clubs and you throwing money, you doing this, you going to these parties now. But it's almost like you felt like you had to do it to make it. You see what I'm saying? Because you got to be on the end crowd, you got to network. Even though a lot of times I didn't want to be there, but it's just like, but if you don't want to miss the opportunity, you see what I'm saying? And so, but if you see it long enough, you're going to dabble in it, you see what I'm saying? So it's one of those situations where it's like, man, she was just getting fed up and she was like, you know what, I'm done with it, you know what I'm saying? And I knew how much of an amazing woman she was. And she's still by my side, but she was pretty much looking for a way out. And then she ran right into the truth.
Now, she ran into the truth. Now, was that right before you talked about an incident happening in the studio? I don't know if you...
Well, that was in college.
Okay.
You know, that incident that happened in the studio in college, I had no business being there anyway. You know, I'm in college. These dudes wanted me to do a hook. So I went to this this house studio. I'm talking about as hood as it get. I'm talking about gutter hood. And I ain't come from that, but you know, I was one of those dudes who just didn't have no fear. So I went in there, I'm singing on the mic, you know, doing whatever it is, and man, I can't hear nothing, and then the song stopped, and I hear, get down. House getting robbed.
Man.
Studio getting robbed.
Man.
So I'm in the booth, you know, if somebody flicks, you know, you shoot that thing, I'm gone. Man, the man walked into that booth, he put that gun to my head. I was like, so you already know I done revert back to Christianism, so I'm like, man, God, please help me through this. And by that time, I was like, you know, if your will be done, let it be done, let it be so. Because, you know, I hadn't been here anyway. I was supposed to be in college getting a man, he put that doggone cotton or whatever in my mouth, he had me on the ground, I'm like, shh. I started praying, I said, man, it's over. But man, the Most High spared me again in that situation.
Hallelujah.
So, but even then, I'm a Christian, so grace, you know what I mean? You went back to doing the same thing, you know what I'm saying? Just same thing over and over, you know?
So you accept this truth now. Your wife accepted it first.
For the most part.
For the most part. So how did she bring it on to you?
I think basically when she kept on to the scripture, and then she would go to YouTube to see if she can find something that co-signs what she's saying in the scripture to leave, you know what I'm saying? And then basically what she kept running into questions about who we were as a people, and then she would bring it to me, even though like a lot of times we're not talking to each other, but she would still bring it to me because it's so profound to her. But I was always one of those people, if the scripture said it, I just believed it, whether I was going to walk in it or not.
Right.
And so I was like, dang, we're the Israelite, you know what I'm saying? And then she kept bringing more questions, the Sabbath, the laws and things of that nature. Like, dang, she's like, we're supposed to be doing this. By then, you know, we had already stopped eating pork anyway, even before we got in the truth, like 2 years prior to that. Something the Most High was doing with her, you see what I'm saying? I stopped eating pork because she said, we're not eating pork. I said, okay, we ain't gonna eat no pork. You know, and then she'd say, we're not gonna do this. Okay, we ain't gonna do that. You know what I'm saying? Because she had reasons and the scripture said it, so I didn't do it. But then when we began to do that, and then we start to look at our roles as husband and wives, she noticed that, man, I'm lacking too.
Right.
In my duty as a woman,
right.
as a married woman. Well, no wonder, because if I was on point, perhaps maybe he would be on point too. And then it's like we started working on our marriage, man, and it just, the scripture fixed it.
Hallelujah.
You know what I'm saying? And now it's like, you see me going strong because she was looking for a way out. And she's like, you know what, I'm filthy rag too. You know what I'm saying? So, but for her to recognize that, you know what I'm saying? It just, but I already knew she was such an amazing woman. And the love, the Ruach working in her, bringing these questions to me. And as we would dissect these questions together, and then it brought us closer. And then, you know what if the scripture's going to answer all these questions, then how does it relate to us to our marriage? And then we started to see the correlation between the Most High and Israel and us and her, so me and her. So
now, if you can refresh my memory, I think back at the time we talked about this briefly, you had expressed that you actually went to pastors, you went to individuals that try to talk about your marriage, and they couldn't give you no scriptural breakdown. So,
well, they wouldn't even help. So, like, I even joined the church, you know, in hopes. I said, babe, I'm going to join the church. You know, we're going to get a pastor.
After you had the truth?
No, before that.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going to try to fix this thing. No, by the time we get the truth, you know, the scripture fixed it.
Okay.
But before that, you know what I'm saying, I went to this thing called church called Life Point. I'm singing in the choir. That's what the song Matrix is about. They ain't know my name like that. People that walking in, they ain't even saying hello, good morning. So, and then you singing 4 services, so you really feel like you singing for business because it feel like a business.
Yeah.
So you just walk in there and it's like, okay, showtime. Sometimes, man, at that time I believe the Ruach really started to begin with me. We would sing certain songs and I'm like, I'm feeling it. But because it's like a business, you cut that Ruach off like that, like, dang, like this thing is getting good. But then it's like, man, this is torture, you know, so, but that's when she started bringing stuff to me that wasn't the truth. Then we went to this therapist lady or psychologist lady about working on our marriage, and she's like, "Oh, play these pet games to bring y'all closer, love language, that stuff." And then it didn't work.
5 love languages?
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But she was a believer, Christian, but it still didn't work. And so, you know what? And then when I went to that church, I was like, man, I need to talk. I was telling the choir director, man, I need to be able to speak to the pastor. Maybe he has an answer for me. Man, I don't even know that pastor's name, bro. It's like they just kept prolonging stuff. It just didn't work out. I was like, you know what? But when my wife started bringing all them questions, then, the scripture fixed it. I didn't really feel like I needed them after that.
So your marriage, hallelujah for your marriage being fixed, restored, renewed, refreshed, and now you're moving forward. So where did that lead? Because you have this Jonah type of experience where you said, I don't want to do it, or Jeremiah experience where you said, I don't want to speak for you right now. But in the process, you're learning, you're growing.
Right.
You leave the music alone for a minute. So what inspired you to pick up the music and do
that voice?
That voice and that.
Yeah, the Lord said you got to do this.
Now, was it the 6 months or was it longer than that?
Oh no, during that 3-year period when I was learning the scriptures, I was hearing it the whole time.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? But I felt like I wasn't ready. You see what I'm saying? If you listen to that song called, I think Yahuwah Back, where it says, I heard the voice, so I ran like Jonah, because of the work, I didn't want to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so I went to Green Iguana, which is a real club, but it's not super clubby. But it was like, I went to Green Iguana, man, I still heard that voice. You gotta do what I told you to do. I was like, dang, I gotta sing, I don't be talking, I don't know how to even go live. So I'm like, what am I gonna do? You know what I'm saying? So I said, okay, Most High, if I'm gonna do this for you, I talk to him like this, you're gonna have to do something for me though. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna have to light the path for me. I don't mind obeying you, but you gotta do this thing. And if it's all gonna be about you, it's got to be about you. But you have to do it for me. I'm just like, I got the gift, you gave it to me, but you gonna have to work for me.
And not just the gift, he's allowed you to get behind the doors of the industry to know how to perfect it and to give high quality music.
Right. Yes, so that's why I was like, he prepared me the whole time. Record execs, knowing how the radio works, the side of the business, because it really is 90%. How to get things done, whether it be social media, whether it be website, all aspect of the music, from the consultation purposes, graphics, all of these different things, knowing how to get music out. And it's like, I know all these names out there, I'm not gonna name drop, but it's like, now I'm like, Most High, maybe you put these people in place, hopefully maybe I can use them one day, but like, if it's the music business, I understand it. You see what I'm saying? At the best of my ability. But yeah, he prepared me the whole time.
So was Spiritual Combat the first song that you put out?
Actually, it wasn't the first song, but I guess you could say put out in the sense where people heard, yes. But really how it was just a graphic I put out, which was the We the People graphic.
The We the People, okay.
Yeah.
It seemed like Spiritual Combat. It seemed like once you did that, and when it hit Spiritual Combat show, it just seemed like it blew up for you.
Right after that, me and Michael was talking, and I was like, I'll do you a theme song. And so it was Spiritual Combat, obviously, because that's the name of the show. And when I did that, it kind of did for me, but not really, because all people saw was it was a song.
Okay.
But they didn't know who did it. A lot of people didn't know. It was just a song playing, and everybody loved it. All the kids was just like, oh my God, this song. And then it's like, but who does the song? I mean, he would say it, but it wasn't resonating with people, because a name like Lorvins, like, who's going to look that up? And so, and it was just Spiritual Combat. It wasn't until like I dropped the album, and then I started going, and people like, you the one that did Spiritual Combat. You the one that, oh my God. You know what I'm saying? So, even when I dropped the graphics for We the People still didn't know who I was. You know, people like, oh, this song got to be fire because the graphic is fire. And then, but I loved it because I was like, almost like, maybe that's how you're going to do it.
Right.
I'll just put out music. People won't know who I am. You know what I'm saying? So, and it still get the job done. Man, look here. I still had to show my face. And then when I dropped the song, it was all she wrote. It was over then.
So is that when once that We the People was done,
yeah,
that's when it took off for you?
When We the People dropped, it was just over. It was like, it's almost like Israel ain't never heard nothing like that before. Then it was like Shema, you know, everybody was already familiar with the Shema Israel. You know what I'm saying?
Uh-huh.
So when that song dropped, it was like, oh, it's done. Then everybody started using it. Even Straightway had used it in their video. So it was just one of those things where the Most High was like making this thing catch like wildfire, and then everybody began to share it. And I'm starting to see it in everybody videos, their little snippets and stuff. I'm like, whoa, okay, I ain't asked for this.
Right.
I did say like my path, and he took it and ran.
Yeah, lit it for you. Lit the path. So where did that take you after the We the People? Because it didn't just stop right there.
Well, after We the People, then people started requesting that, for me to come to their assemblies and perform, and they always wanted to hear that song. To the point where even the children was like, we got to hear that. And then, they come, I'll get them, and they'll dance and do their thing. At that time, I was dealing with Rebirth, and, you know what I'm saying, and they were very instrumental at the time. The Most High saw fit that we would partner at that time. I did a lot of music for them, and vice versa. So it was just one of those situations where the Most High used every party for His own gain, for His own name. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Mm-hmm. So you move on from them, and now you collaborate with all these other artists in Israel now.
Right. I mean, even from then, I was always a partner with them. I was never a member with Rebirth, but
right.
even then, I was doing partnership with different artists. See, I'm one of those people that, man, I feel like the Most High got me here to deal with the nation. You see what I'm saying? Because it's His people. I love His people.
Right.
He said we were scattered in the four corners of this earth, not just here in the United States. And so when I received the mandate, it was for His people, for the sake of His name. You know what I'm saying? And so that's how I operate. And this goes way back from even when I was young, especially in college when they want me to join like Alpha Phi Alpha, the Kappas and all that. I said, man, look, I don't need to do that to have friends. Because as soon as you join these things, and then now it's like cliquish, and then it's like, and the truth to me, I treat it the same way. You see what I'm saying? Because this is not about religion, it's not about doctrine, this is about being an Israelite in the spirit and in truth. So I want to operate and be a servant to the people, right. Not an organization. You see what I'm saying? Because once you click up, man, it's almost like a spirit of competition or, oh, we the best, like Khaled. We the best. Like, come on, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is about the people for the sake of Yahuwah's name,
Hallelujah. That goes back to what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
About His name.
Yeah.
And we have to be careful because I went to a concert where it was so many artists there in the truth, and it was like individuals was trying to, it was about self-promotion, it was about things that we see out in the world, so we got to keep that at the forefront.
But see, even that, I don't even look at it like that. I look at when the Most High bring a lot of people together, He brings people together to examine them. See, it's not about whether the person is competitive or not. He brings people together to examine, the wheat and the tares have to grow together. Right. So if a light is going to be a light, whether it be a greater light, there has to be a distinction made anyway. Right. So things have to play out no matter what. Like I may see someone, if I can see the spirit of competition, I don't judge them and say, well, yeah, person. I still just do what I'm supposed to do. You see what I'm saying? And if that person is being competitive, it will reveal itself in time. Because the Most High is not going to exalt a fool for His name. You see what I'm saying? He'll use that fool, do whatever He got to do, and then drop him on his head. That's just the way He's going to do that. Just like He used Saul, Nebuchadnezzar, all these different. He will use you for His sake, His name's sake. Right. Get rid of you. Right. And those who are humble and those who are going to really do it for Him, He'll exalt them. You see what I'm saying? And they don't. And a lot of those people don't want that position. You see what I'm saying? Well,
that's definitely an interesting perspective to have. And so what inspired these other albums that you continue to drop? Because I remember you actually said that you just had songs just coming to you, like they was coming to you nonstop.
Yeah, I mean, We the People, of course, I found out We the People, so naturally I named it that, and it was taking me through this transition as far as We the People. But I always knew then that wasn't enough. But even in that album, you hear elements of the Spirit, just kind of dealing with me in certain songs, in the message and stuff like that. So once I knew we the people, the next album, the Ruach just kind of worked with me to say, you know what, the next one, renewal of the mind. Okay. So now we the people, you renew your mind. It's a renewal. When you hear it, you can kind of hear some of the spiritual growth in that. And then living sacrifice. Once you renew your mind, I was like, you know what, I got to offer myself as a living sacrifice to the Most High. And to me, that was a big situation, it's a big deal. That's why it was a double disc. There was so much flowing at that time, right? So much music, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna make it a double disc, double portion. You know what I'm saying? So it's just the Most High was just taking me higher. And from there, I started to learn a lot more. You learn about the firmament and these different things. I'm like, okay, like I'm boasting the Most High now. Well, you have created this firmament. Okay, so now the firmament. So now I'm letting you know, okay, yeah, my Most High created this thing. You ain't finna deceive me. Now I done got the truth, and I feel like the Ruach is working with me, and now I'm offering myself. Now I can speak boldly and say, nah, this is how the Father created this. This is the firmament, and there's much more to it than what it looks, because it's really showing His handiwork, you know what I'm saying? And show all the different things and how amazing He is. And so by just me planting gardens and being outside and just looking at the nature of what the Most High has done always showed His grandeur, like this grandness of Him. And so I was just captivated. That's why I call that one the firmament. And I received that title a year before I did it. So
well, the firmament was nice, and we the people, the renewal. I was so blown away by the renewal. I was up in Detroit, and I was riding down 696, and I just kept playing that Sabbath song over and over and over.
My J. Lutz favorite.
Yeah, and he started off busting down scriptures, then doing it with the big leagues, so you've been studying and reading and now growing. So where's that been leading you at now in your journey, your walk? Obviously, you just did an event today in Knoxville, Tennessee, and you have plenty of events going on. So where does that lead you at today now with all these albums, all these features, YouTube videos? Of course, we're going to get to that at the end. Where does that lead you at today?
Where it's leading me to understand now that the Most High really has showed me Israel. He showed me this big old picture, you see what I'm saying? And I've come out of it knowing that, man, we are not perfect. Bruh, even with learning about the firmament and learning love and long-suffering, fruit of the Spirit, I've learned, man, we still some broken people, man, and especially with the leaders. And I've noticed that a lot of the people who follow leaders, they're good people, bro. They really are. And they're really just trying to learn this thing. Mm-hmm. They're really just trying to get as close as they can to the Father. But our leaders, bro, are so broken. And a lot of them teach through their pain. Just like I said, I've gone back and looked at how my life was affected even through my mother. And even some of the people that rode with me has gone back and checked their life from the beginning. And I'm not saying I'm perfectly there, but I believe the Most High has really moved me in such a way where I care about His people first. Right. Care about the Most High more. But He's saying what you do to them is what you do unto me. So it almost has a balance in how I respect the Father, because I have to do what He says. So now I've learned that this is not about what you say now, it's about what you do. Because the scripture was never meant to be written, although He did it because we forgot everything, but it was never initially supposed to be that way. So now I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm supposed to walk this thing out, not just talk about it, not just teach it or walk it out. You see what I'm saying? So I don't apologize for that part. You know what I'm saying? That's this thing where I say sorry, and that's just me. Sorry, I will not apologize for walking the commandment out. You see what I'm saying? I don't want to stand. Don't tell me you care and don't tell me you love me, but won't even have a conversation with me. Right. Don't tell me that I'm your brother and you run away from me. You see what I'm saying? Because what kind of Israelite are you? What kind of man are you to say that you love me? You my brother. But then you shy away like a whimpering woman. You see what I'm saying? Like that's not. We don't do that. So if we're going to be lions, we're going to be men in this walk, we have to be able to face each other. Because, you know, the Most High, it's hard to face him when you have dirt on you.
Right.
So when you see a man who's walking righteous and you've done him wrong, you may not be able to face him either. Why? Because you see the Most High in him. Point blank period. I can say that boldly. You know what I'm saying? Because the thing about it is you want to walk righteously as possible. And still be humble enough to know that you don't know everything.
Right.
Still be humble enough to say, you know what, man, I still got a lot to learn. Because there's always somebody smarter than you. You see what I'm saying?
And that's where a lot of our leaders, if you will, start to fail, because, you know, once the numbers start going up, the subscribers start going up, you know, we had a conversation earlier before we put the camera on about, you know, individuals are quick to throw lessons and individuals fall on their every word. But when it's time to actually repent and come before the people and tell them that I messed up on this, or I fell short, or I was teaching something wrong, and now I got to come back, and, you know, you see very few to none actually take that approach and say, I'm wrong. I humble myself down before the people, and, you know, would you all please forgive me, or whatever, you know what I mean? So speaking with you earlier, you talked about how you had a desire that you wanted to use, you know, the influence that the Most High gave you to bring leaders together, so that they can talk about these differences, so that they can do a better job of dealing with those that look up to them and hang on their words. So do you have a time frame for that, or is it just long term?
If I said I had a time frame, I'd be lying. And this is not something I take lightly. And there's some things that have been happening with me lately, and it's like, I've always been a skeptic about how the Ruachs work with people and things of that nature, and how the Most High deal with people. Especially when you come up and you talking about the Most High told you something.
Right.
I guard up quick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? He told you something. Through who? Oh, you mean to tell me he landed in your room and told you something? I mean, and a lot of times those people who tell you that the Most High, they can't even tell you how. They just said, oh yeah, he just told me this. Oh no, I need to know how. Because a lot of times when he did in the scriptures, he said Samuel, he said, ain't everybody was able to say who sent them. You know what I'm saying? And you can't tell me who he sent to tell you this? When he said, I'm not talking to nobody face to face, none of that, since Moses. Then I'm not saying that he can't tell you something, but he's going to tell you through somebody.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? Nah, I won't accept the fact that he just came down in your room and said, hey, hi, how you doing? Can you do this for me? He always works through a messenger. You know what I'm saying? And then you got people out here so convinced that the Most High told, maybe they're saying the Most High told me this and just skipping the messenger. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying that the Most High ain't telling people things, but if you can't explain to me how he told it to you, sorry, I just can't deal with that. I need proof.
Right. So now, as we are, I guess, drawing closer towards the end, what are some of the projects that you have moving forward that's on your radar?
Well, I have an album that I want to, it's my desire the Exodus album.
Okay.
And but also this mandate. Being able to speak with leaders who are more than willing, and just to work this litmus test to pose leaders and say, would you be willing to put aside your differences for the sake of the name of the Most High? I'm not saying for you to compromise your integrity according to the commandments. We can talk about certain doctrines and this and that has to do with the commandments, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about righteousness versus unrighteousness. Can you put your differences aside for the sake of the name of the Most High? So that's really one of my things, man, that I think we all as Israelites, whether we be leaders or followers or whatever have you, should be able to answer that question. You know what I'm saying? And if it's no, then it's like, why? You see what I'm saying? But as far as the work that I'm doing right now, man, it's just being obedient, man.
Oh, yeah.
Just be as obedient as I can be, even when I don't understand it. Because I can tell you right now, I'm one of the most disobedient people you will ever meet. You know what I'm saying? Because the Most High, when he works with me, and especially he sends people and they tell me what time it is, And sometimes I'm like, man, that's a lot to do right there. That's a tall order, Most High.
I think Lorvins is AKA Sons of Shemites, AKA Jonah.
That's okay, you know what I'm saying? But I want to make sure it's right though.
Yeah.
I want to make sure it's him. You know, I read the book of Adam and Eve, and I was like, man, who that is? Like, I want to know because I want to be sure. You see what I'm saying? That it is the Most High sending His Spirit or His servant or whoever to give me that message. You know what I'm saying? And so I can be sure. But I know that just means I need to work harder at my discernment and being able to obey no matter what. Because sometimes even when I obey, things may not go right, but it just could have been a test for me to be able to get right back to the right path. I welcome that too. You see what I'm saying? So, but I want to be sure.
Oh yeah.
And the scripture said, let man be lie and Yahuwah be true, and it's always going to be like that. Because before I know that Most High is working in you, say, hey, and the Spirit got to test the Spirit, man.
And that's what that prayer and that fasting does. It heightens our spiritual frequencies as we can hear the Most High on a higher level.
That's right.
So I also was privy to now that you have a clothing line that you want to talk about your new clothing line.
Yeah, you know, still working on it. It's called True Heritage. Everybody on earth has a heritage. And we want to make sure that heritage that you seek, that you know about yourself is true. The true heritage. And, you know, we all have we're a beginning in who we really are. And that's why you see the DNA as one of the logos within the true heritage, because the DNA is not going to lie.
Right.
It has your blueprint and how the Most High intended you to be. And so, and when I rock this, then it's like, okay, you will understand that now I'm starting to understand what my true heritage is. Not just the heritage part, but the actually what he said, he knew you from the womb,
right.
Which means how he made you. So that DNA strand that's in there tells me that, okay, I think I got this now. I think I understand what it is that the Most High has purposed me to be on this earth.
Okay, so as we come closer to the end, do you have any last words that you want to share with those that's taking a look at this? You know, any last words of encouragement, wisdom, whatever you want to share to the body of believers as we get ready to close this out?
I mean, the only thing I can share is like, man, make sure you put the Most High first in everything that you do, no matter how small or big it is. Work on your discernment. Make sure that it is the Most High that is guiding your path. And make sure that He's leading you through obedience, of course. But a lot of times the Most High don't show you a lot of things until you start to keep His commandments.
Right.
He starts to give you wisdom and knowledge in these things. And then you can finagle your way, not finagle, but basically know where to go. And know it's Him that's guiding you. You see what I'm saying? So your discernment and all of these things get heightened. So I would say always put Him first. Test every spirit. Make sure that every time you deal with someone, they have the Spirit, which is the fruit of the Spirit. And even if they don't, still have that compassion. Because, man, we all just getting this thing. And we just all trying to figure it out. Trying out how to love each other and things of that nature. You see what I'm saying? Because although that word loves, it seems simple, but it's a very complex word. It's complicated. But it's only complicated because we don't know who we are.
Right.
We don't know whose we are. Because we don't consider these things, you know what I'm saying? But once we start to understand who we are as a people, from the physical standpoint and from the spiritual, because He's a just balance Elohim, then we can start to move forward with humility, you see what I'm saying? So that we can start loving each other once again. So we can show that, hey, Most High lives in us, you know?
Hallelujah. And finally, for those individuals that take a look at this interview and they say, I want to be able to support the brother. I want to know how to reach him. I want to watch, some of his music videos. How can individuals find you online for those that's been hiding under a rock right now?
You can always go to my website, which is the hub to everything. You go to www.sonofshemites.net or .com. Either one should work. So that's www.sonshemites.net. You type Lorvins, Son of Shem on Google, everything will come up. YouTube, whatever.
Okay. All right. Well, there we have it. Lorvins, Sons of Shemites, sharing his testimony. I'm hearing quite a few things today that I never was privy to. I'm quite sure that many of you out there have not been privy to all the information that he shared in this interview. And I know it's so much more. We couldn't get it all in one interview. But I'm thankful for the brother, the Most High, for allowing us to be able to finally sit down after these years and after all these events we've seen each other at, to be able to share the story. And until the next time we see each other again, we say, Shalom, Shalom.
Shalom.